So today I'm up in Brisbane catching up with Jason Andrew from SBO, one of the great supporters and sponsors of the ETA Forum coming up in September. Why don't we kick off with a little bit around SBO mainly?
For sure, yeah. So I'm a chartered accountant by background. We started SBO Financial about 8 years ago. And what we do is most traditional accountants focus on tax compliance and tax structuring, which is all really important. But what we do a little bit differently is focus on what we call financial management, which is basically an outsourced finance function to a lot of high growth businesses. It ranges from like bookkeeping, payroll, BAS compliance, financial modelling, forecasting, all that sort of stuff, which you would expect kind of like a really good commercial accountant or a CFO. But tailored for a small business. Businesses between 1 and 50 mil turnover is our sweet spot, where they've got kind of an established business and they're just now growing and scaling and dealing with all the headaches that come with that.
And so, leading up to the last couple of years, you obviously had, SBOs growing well and you've got a good client base and you feel like you've got an established or establishing a position in the market around who your client is and how you service them and that kind of stuff. And then somehow you come across this concept of search and ETA and people buying businesses instead of starting them. What was the first point when you came across this model?
Our first kind of search, the work we did was with Nick Bamford, helping him, a guy my age looking to buy a random quarry maintenance business. And I thought this is the most absurd thing I've seen or heard of, and he's raising capital from these international investors. I'm like, whatever, like, didn't overthink it, just helped him what he needed to do. But it took me a few years to click. I was like, oh, okay, I've kind of connected the dots now, and now I understand what you were actually doing.
You've met Nick, wants to buy a business. That sounds great. And then that opens your eyes to the fact that there are a bunch of other people out there that are also doing similar things, definitely globally, but kind of emerging domestically. And so when you're running your own business and you're thinking about different client types and industries and sectors and things, you want to make sure that you're moving into a space or spending your time on a space that's going to pay off. And when you were going through that process, whether it be in your own mind or even with your partners at SBO and your team, and talking to them about, okay, we've got this new client type. It's actually these entrepreneurs that are heading out and buying businesses and they're backed by some investors and all that kind of stuff. Like, what was the black hat in your head or in the room saying at that point? Like, there must have been a little bit of concern around, is this a real thing? What happens if these entrepreneurs don't buy anything? What if they run out of cash and they can't pay off it? Like, what was the black hat kind of saying?
Well, you mean a diversity of people taking a big risk. They're betting the house literally on trying to find and acquire a business, and you never know how rational or irrational they might be in terms of getting to that stage and how much expectation and pressure they put on you as a service provider. Because you want to do a quality job, as you always do, but you know that a lot is on the line.
The search phase itself, from what I've learned and it being exposed to just working with different searches, it is a long and grindy process. Some of these searches can take up to 2 years over that looking for a business, and if I was in their shoes, like that would be a very grueling and very grueling exercise, knowing that you're just going to show up to your laptop and continue to scale databases and make random cold calls to people looking to buy their business. Like, that's quite a foreign and weird way of approaching it. I guess if you think about, no one likes cold calling for sales generally. There's a lot of bad reputation around that, but imagine cold calling to buy a business, even weirder, right?
It's not all going to be smooth sailing for the sector as a whole.
Yep.
What do you think are the things particularly in the next 24 months, that might put some waves in front of the model or the community?
The piece of advice would be to connect with other people going through the same experience, because you can bounce ideas off each other, learn from their advice, learn tips and tricks, hacks, share databases, just so you all kind of grow together. I think what I love about the search community is that there's no competition. Like, everyone sees themselves as a peer group kind of progressing through, and everyone wants to see success. No one's there to kind of tear each other down or compete. Everyone's very collaborative and open to sharing new ideas and way of doing things.
I think search is a really great opportunity to explore for those folks who have maybe tried to build something from scratch. Like, that was very difficult, lost a bunch of money and time, but maybe I can move into acquiring something and renovating
Yeah.
instead of going from 0 to 1.
Yeah.
How can I take a business from 1 to 10?